Okay, so it's been a few days since I've seen Sinners, and you know, I knew that it had like a really high Rotten Tomato score going into it, um, and it's just one of those movies where it's like, oh, the director and actor combo. I know people are going to praise it. So yeah, going into it, I had a feeling that it was going to be rated really high. When I got out of watching it, I knew why people would rate it high. I think it has a sheen of, hey, this movie must be good because individual things are good in it, but then also those individual things can be bad as well. Um, just kind of throwing a few things out there. In certain aspects, the cinematography was good, just because it looked like it was shot on film, so that's part of it. And yeah, it did look like a good movie, but then there was lots of times where the cinematography was awful, like CGI backdrops and things like that that were overlit, and the actors being underlit, and just certain things just not feeling natural within the scene. So yeah, so even like the best aspects of it to me had some issues in it, like and I'll be bringing a couple of those up here. But basically, I just have a ton of questions, and I have way more than even the ones that I've written down. But to me, when you see almost every single person on YouTube in critic spaces calling this thing a masterpiece, and I've seen plenty of people say the best vampire movie ever made, even though I don't think it's really even a vampire movie per se. Movies get this treatment a lot, to where they tend to be overrated a lot, and it's just crazy because I honestly do not know if people are if they don't know how to critique a movie, if they don't watch the movie and ask questions, because a good movie will get you involved. A good movie might have you answer a lot of questions, but then it will answer them in due time or in smart ways. They will engage you that way. Sinners made me ask a ton of questions, and either they were not answered, or if they were answered and I just happened to miss a line of dialogue because I couldn't understand some of the lines, they still didn't make sense. So let me know in the comments below if you can answer any of these questions, and also if you can answer them in a foolproof way to where they actually do make sense. So just kind of going through these, I think one of the biggest questions are, why are these brothers in town? From what I got from what the movie stated, was that they were in Al Capone's gang up in Chicago. They were obviously able to make a lot of money. I didn't quite catch to see if they were like banished from Al Capone's gang. Were they on the run? I don't know. I do know that they stole Irish beer and Italian wine because Irish and Italian mobs were in Chicago. So I don't know if, and I get what they're trying to say about that. They didn't make that, what was trying to be said a lot in this movie never fully got there. So I could not quite understand why they were back in Mississippi. And I can develop lots of theories. Oh, they just wanted to come back in town because they became successful and they wanted to pump some money into the local economy. They just wanted to have a good time. None of that was clear to me whatsoever. I don't know if they were on the run from someone from Chicago. That would have been some sense. The vampire does not show up until like an hour into the movie, and there's questions I have about that. But could it have made sense if the vampire was tied to them from Chicago and followed them down here and they were running from the vampire? Obviously, that's not the case. Did they come down here because they heard that the KKK was forming some type of something, and they wanted to come down here and involve themselves in it. No, none of that was happening whatsoever. So I think knowing characters' motivations, being along for the ride, and understanding why the characters are doing what they're doing, I didn't get any of that. So my invested interest was only with the beginning of the movie, and the further it went along, the more I lost interest because I was not getting any answers to question after question that was coming up. Why rush to have the party? It's literally one day that they purchase the property. They find the musician. They find party goers. They find someone who's going to be doing the cooking that night. They do all this in one day. Why? I mean, usually if there's a ticking bomb in a movie, there's a reason. Shouldn't there be a reason why they have to do it that night? And again, I don't know if I missed it, but I don't know, even if I did miss it, I cannot fathom a reason why that. I mean, why didn't they go there before? Now, if there was a reason that, hey, they heard on the 20th that the KK was organizing something, and okay, then maybe there could be a reason. They had barely enough time to make it down to Mississippi and arrange everything. No, none of that's ever mentioned whatsoever. They have, which we don't find out until the end of the movie, because I guess the director does not want people thinking back on the movie. But we find out that they have some hidden guns in this truck that they've hidden, like in this cornfield or whatever. And the whole thing at the beginning is one brother's going to take that truck with all the weapons in it and go to town to find someone to paint a sign. And the other brother is going to take the young musician and go find the musician who's going to play at the party and invite people and stuff. Well, if they would have just allotted themselves a little bit more time, they could have just done that all together. So they bring that extra vehicle into town, and he goes out of his way, obviously, to make sure no one tries to steal his guns. And it's no big mystery as to what's in the back of the truck anyway. It's either money or guns. And oh yeah, wouldn't those guns have been nice to have when the vampires are trying to kill them all? Or not really kill them all, but turn them into vampires? Wouldn't the guns be nice then? Oh, but they were outside in the truck, but they were inside. Wouldn't they be worried about those guns being outside in the truck the entire time? Couldn't the guns have gotten stolen then? Why wouldn't they have the guns inside? To me, those are things that I would be thinking of when I'm writing the script. Is there a reason they brought a box full of machine guns other than just to have? So just tacking onto that, I guess they have guns because they are part of a gang in Chicago, but it seems like they had a special reason to have those guns in that case and everything. It didn't seem like they just kind of grabbed some stuff on their way down to Mississippi, their normal guns that they carried on them or something like that. No, these were like some heavy machine guns that they had with them. So I guess they just took them. Or was this just their personal weapons? But it seems like they were making a big deal about these guns, other than just a stupid payoff later on that just comes from out of nowhere. But it's still not paying off specifically why they have the guns in the condition that they do. There just needs to be more to it. Sammy is a great musician, but how did he become so good? It's not exactly needed, but when a movie comes from out of nowhere and tries to pretend that it's being about themes of blues music and whatnot, it involves itself heavily in that regards. But you think that you would want to tell maybe a little bit more about the Sammy character. He's given a guitar to him at the beginning. So where did he learn to play before? Something would have been nice other than just saying, hey, I can play, so that's all you need to know about me. The big dance scene felt like it was tying into a theme that was not explored before. And like I was saying, the theme of blues music and what it's doing. I mean, there is this theme of, oh, the music is somehow drawing the vampire there, which to me, I was really, really loose and seemed to kind of be one of those things that says, well, who cares? It's just happening. Oh, the music has just brought the vampire there or something. But so everyone knows the big scene. But ultimately, it didn't feel like it fit with the rest of the movie. It felt like at first it was okay. There was kind of showing some. It was almost like, oh, a history of blues up until that point, but then it started showing future things, including twerking, which I was laughing at by the end of the scene, because it's kind of like they overstepped the boundaries, and I did not understand what the theme in the movie was. I think the director was like, oh, here's a theme of, black music in general, and how everything from the past still shapes the future. But to me, that was not the theme of that any small portion of that the movie was trying to build up to that point. It disconnected at that point. And then it leads into, maybe I don't care to think that much and dig deep into it, but the whole burning down of it's not a barn, it was like a factory. I want to call it a barn anyway. But it burns down, and then all of a sudden you get the point of view from the vampires, and it's not real, that everyone's dancing outside, but to me, it was almost trying to set something up, like, oh, okay, is this saying that by the end of the movie they could burn down the barn, and that's how they ultimately turn everyone into vampires? Or is this symbolizing something else? It was just, to me, it was almost like, hey, it would be really nice just to have this barn start burning down, then everyone's partying outside and everything. Those are some great visuals. Who cares what it really means in the end? I don't know. It's just one of those scenes that started off good, overstepped its boundaries. The music, it was a jumbled mess of noise. So it went from a blues song that I started liking to just noise, and then showing random things just to detach itself from the movie when it should have been a cornerstone. So yeah. So once again, yeah, it looks good, but what does it really mean? And then speaking of the vampires, like I said, it's about an hour into the movie that we first see our vampire. And once again, questions. So he just drops into frame, but it's the middle of the day, and there's nothing around except this one house. Okay, so why is this vampire running from these Indians? Why is he just out in the middle of nowhere? Is this the closest place he could have went to seek refuge? And then the Indians show up, and then they leave, and it's like, okay, so these characters were introduced. Are they going to come back at any point? Why were they there? Is this? Am I missing something about? I'm guessing the character's Irish. Am I missing something about Indians and Irish? Or no? It's just, I don't know. It's just it was just wasted time. When you could have just had the vampire show up at the couple's house and kill them at night. So that was, I thought, terribly done. Let's see here. If the KKK could become friendly and welcome black people, since they're both evil after becoming vampires, and I guess evil triumphs race relations, why didn't they go the route of turning the black people into vampires, and all the black people saying, hey, this is good. You make this all sound great. You can still play good music as vampires, and we get to live forever and all that jolly stuff. And when an apparent KKK member is turned into a vampire, at that point, they are no longer KKK, because now they're just all good friends. Well, okay, So one of the theories of making the movie better would be, okay, well, why didn't just the black people become vampires and then try to convince the KKK into becoming vampires, and that way they could just all get along, and then the KKK refuses, and then the vampires go after the KKK. That would have been a fun little twist on things. And it kind of all harkens back to what's the overall plot of the story. What's going on here? I mean, is this a revenge story against the KKK? Well, what are the vampires doing there? Is this a tale about race relations and how evil triumphs? The sinners of the world triumphs. Anything that they could be talking about race or something like that. I mean, they start barely touching upon it, but then it's like, but then why are the KKK there? They're just, it's just being tacked on. It's like, it's almost as if the director Coogler thought, well, this takes place in 1932 Mississippi, so there just has to be a scene with KKK, right? I mean, it cannot be an actual movie without that being in it, right? I mean, it was totally not needed. It came from out of nowhere, the KKK aspects of it all, other than tying in with the vampires of sinful people belonging together no matter their race. And then harkening back to the end as well. So what's the KKK's plan? They're going to sell a barn to a couple of black brothers. And I mean, they had to have devised their plan that day, because I mean, when did the one guy know that they were planning on buying this barn? I mean, maybe beforehand, maybe they wrote a letter saying, is there any property for sale to have a juke joint in? And he replied, come on down, and then started planning what they were going to do. Mind you, I don't know what they were planning on doing, but once the KKK knows that there's going to be a barn full of black people on this particular night, why didn't they go there that night and do whatever they planned on doing? Why would they? It seems to me like they were planning on ambushing a party, but yet they go like noon the following day. This being all tacked on, and then still not making sense even after it's tacked on as to what the overall plan was. It just, I thought it was just a terrible way on multiple levels to end it. Haley what's her last name? Steinfeld? My autocorrect changed it to Seinfeld, but that's not her last name, so now I'm confused. But Haley gets turned into a vampire. She gets invited to the juke joint because it's well set up that the rules of the vampires in this world is they have to be invited somewhere. Okay, so the vampire turns her. She gets invited into the juke joint. So I'm sitting there wondering to myself, okay, so this is how they're going to infiltrate everybody. She's going to invite them in, or she's going to turn someone else who's going to turn someone else. Somehow this is the vampire's plan of gaining access into the building. No. She ends up turning one of the brothers into a vampire, and then eventually they both leave. So I don't know what the plan was there. I mean, I get that her plan was probably just to turn Stack into a vampire because she wanted to be with him, because she wanted to cheat on her. Everyone's a sinner. She wanted to cheat on her husband and get back to a guy who apparently abused her back in Chicago or whatever. But I just don't get to the whole, oh, she can be invited in now that she's a vampire. It seemed to me like that was leading to something more. But no, all it led to was more singing and dancing from the vampires outside. It's just, nothing really made sense. It's like, okay, yeah, you could have turned someone into a vampire, then someone else into a vampire. The vampires are apparently really easy to kill in this world of these vampires. So I don't know. It was just kind of really all over the place. Then comes the garlic scene. So one of the patrons in the bar is passed out, and there's dark liquid around them. So everyone else in the bar thinks, "Oh, well, he must be getting ready to turn into a vampire. Let's just throw him out, and then we'll get back to our business." And we're gonna get back to our business of, well, if he's bit, then someone here must be a vampire. And so they go with the garlic test. Whoever can eat garlic is human. Good old scene from the Thing almost. And then you have the one woman who stupidly just says, "Oh, I don't like the taste of garlic, so I don't want to do this." And I'm sitting there almost laughing because it's like, really? You cannot have figured out a better way to have some conflict where someone may not want to do it. We saw the Faculty did this scene in a much better way. Even the Thing did the scene in a much better way. Even South Park did the scene in a much better way. But here you have it to where she's just refusing it because she don't quite like the taste of garlic. It's like, oh, so you're going to lead others to believe that you could be a vampire just because you don't like the taste of garlic? And then when Delroy Lindo's character eats it, he starts overreacting, gasping, grabbing at his mouth and throat, and everyone's wondering what's going on, and he's stumbling backwards. And I'm laughing in the theater because I'm thinking, he's either doing this as a joke on them, but no, he keeps on going and acting this way. And then he says something like, "Oh, it didn't sit well with the beer that he had," or something like that. And I was just like, really? That was your gigantic reaction? So much so that you could not have said, I'm okay, it's just a weird I mean, I thought that scene was stupid, especially when you come to find out that, oh no, that guy was really not bit by a vampire. We tossed him out prematurely because we didn't even bother to check. It was just molasses or some other dark liquid that fell on the ground that happened when he got. I don't know if I'm guessing. I don't know if they showed him in the background falling or what, but it was just stupid. And then another thing Delroy Lindo's character did. I know a lot of people are praising his performance, and I'm sure he was not acting this way because it was his decision. I'm gonna guess it was director saying, "Oh no, do this," And obviously this next part was written in the script. But you have all the vampires attacking everybody towards the end. They're all going after one another, and then Delroy Lindo decides to cut his arms open to attract them. I'm sitting there wondering what is going on here. They're already inside. You're not doing anything special here. They already want to attack you. Are you giving a couple of the other people 10 seconds head start to go upstairs in the building? I don't know. I was just to me I didn't. It was the same reason why the Chinese woman was inviting them all in by the end, and then jumping on her husband with a stake and burning up herself and becoming a complete idiot. There's a lot of stupid decisions in this movie, a lot of stupid decisions, and that's just a couple of them. The final scene felt rushed. There was no style to the fight. It was, oh, we're gonna have some vampires run in, do some fighting, then the next group of vampires run in. Because I was thinking, isn't there way more vampires than humans? Why aren't they all rushing in? Why are they separating one another? Are they out there saying, okay, every 30 seconds the next wave of us are going to go in or something like that? But it just seemed, it was just randomness. There was no style to the big fight scene. Of course, this movie gets referred to From Dusk Till Dawn quite a lot, and rightfully so. But I think of the final scene in From Dusk Till Dawn, the final battle. It felt like it was choreographed. It felt like you knew what was going on, and there was reasons for things going on. and this was happening, and this led to that, and then that led to this, and then ultimately that other thing led to this happening. Here it was just a jumbled mess, and it was just, by that point I was just kind of bored in the movie. Even though the first half was intriguing, like I said, I slowly started asking myself questions when it became apparent that lots of questions I was having was not being answered. So by the time I got to this ending scene, it was just boring action. The vampires were, I was thinking to myself, well, no wonder why they were not being very vampire-y along. They can sing better than they can kill people. And which I hated that vampire sing outside. It was just another one. There was lots of moments in the movie where I was just taken out of it. The vampires drooling was brought up twice. Is that just to say that that's them getting thirsty and they're getting ready to attack? You see it twice, and it never really leads to anything. I don't know. And then of course, I heard someone say, "Oh, it's explained," but I would really like to know the explanation. But when Smoke snuck up on Remick outside in that pond, it was almost like a Deus Ex Machina situation where, oh, he's gonna come from out of nowhere and save Sammy and kill the lead vampire. But if my geographic mind is correct, there's a pond, there's a field, and there's a barn. All the vampires are standing in the field looking at Sammy and the head vampire in the pond. And I guess none of them noticed Smoke coming along. Now, I don't know. And then also at that point, I was like, well, they never went back and showed you what happened to Smoke and his brother. I'm going to guess his brother's still alive. Sure enough, he is. But, and then it stuns me when characters do the dumbest of things. If I'm a vampire, first thing I'm going to do is avoid the sun. Hey, it's about 4 a.m. We better finally set fire to this barn and destroy the place that we need to be invited into. We need to start turning everybody into vampires. I don't know why they are dead set on turning them all into vampires, other than just to show that sin overrules racism, just to prove a point. I don't know, but it's like I kept on waiting for them either to gain entry into the barn or burn it down and then kill them all. It's kind of like you got till a little bit before sunrise to either join us or be dead. No, we're just gonna stay outside until sunrise happens, then we're all just gonna burn. So it was almost like they needed to get rid of the vampire aspect of the story because the real retribution time is when the KKK show up the next day. And there was a lot of scenes that just didn't feel fulfilled, like the scene right before Smoke is getting ready to go kill the KKK, and he gets his guns out, and he's kind of remembering like previous parts of the movie. It seemed like there was some style attempted in that scene, but it just never stuck. It felt like yeah, there was a lot of good style in the movie, but then none of it was cohesive. It was just, hey, I have an idea, let's do this. But it just never really worked for me. But yeah, there's a lot I could really go on and on about. But the main thing is, I do not see how this movie is a masterpiece when it fails at so many things, and it took me out of so many situations. It had me laughing at parts when I should not have been laughing. I mean, how hard is it to have some type of just provide reasonings? Okay, there's going to be vampires and a KKK aspect of it. Okay, give me some reasons as to why things are happening. And a reasoning of, well, it's 1932 Mississippi, of course this is going to happen. That's not good enough. I want something more. I want a script that actually thinks things through and provides better reasonings. I mean, it's just, if I wrote this script, I would not be satisfied. I've written several scripts myself, and I continue rewriting them because I want to be proud of what a complete work is. I don't want someone leaving a movie that I wrote and having questions, and me leaving those questions out because I'm either a bad writer or I cannot think of reasons to avoid those questions. I cannot think of answers to provide in a screenplay that would answer questions that an audience would bring up while they're watching the movie. Earlier this year, Companion was a really good movie that had a smart script that provided you lots of questions and then slowly answered those throughout. And by the time it was over, I was very satisfied. I really did not have any other questions, and any questions I did have, I gave it a few minutes thought, and I was like, okay, I remember this one scene, and I remember this other scene. Okay, that was a tight movie. This movie is the opposite of being tight. It's just ideas thrown in with, hey, this is good acting for the most part. Hey, this is good cinematography for the most part. Hey, this is a good idea for a scene until it oversteps its bounds, until it falls off the tracks. So, yeah, I gotta say, it's a 5 out of 10. It started off on a high note and ended on a really terrible note for me. And yeah, for every one thing I like about it, there's another thing I really did not like. And so for anyone who's calling it a masterpiece, especially people who just praise it and don't even question anything about it, it makes me wonder. It really makes me wonder if people are just bad at critiquing things, especially people who have, hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and they don't talk about any of these issues. They don't even mention them. Are they purposely not talking about these and still calling the movie a masterpiece, or are they just blindsided? Are they not critiquing a movie when they watch it? I try not to overly critique something, but when a movie fails me and I start looking at other things and finding things that I don't want to find bad in a movie, but when I start focusing on some smaller aspects of the movie, especially when they're so open and so easy to look at and judge, I don't know. It just boggles my mind that so many people can say it's perfect and the best vampire movie of all time and all these things. Prove me wrong. That's all I gotta say. And I would really like I mentioned a couple times, there's so many better ways that the movie could have tied together. There's so many things you could have done. Like, oh yeah, maybe they did do something in Chicago and now they got some people after them and they just want to take all the money and they want to steal a couple of guns and they want to leave. And it turns out that a vampire's on their trail, an Irish vampire, and he knows where they're going because he can read the minds of someone that they turned or something like that. And that's how they're that's how the vampires are involved. Or why are they going there in the first place? Oh, maybe it's because they heard about the KKK setting up a siege on some people at a party and they want to go down there and prevent it from happening, or just something. I mean, I could really devise a much more thought-provoking and filled plot rather than the mess that we got. Yeah, so I liked it enough for a one-time watch because there was good aspects in it. But like I said, when there's so many bad aspects, especially after seeing reviews and reading reviews and reading comments, it just blows my mind. But let me know the answers in the comments section if you have any solid answers, and not just speculation, but solid answers. Let me know. And if you happen to agree with me, no matter how much you like the movie, if you could at least acknowledge, yeah, there are a lot of questions in it that not all questions have to be answered. What was in Marcellus Wallace's briefcase? That does not need to be answered. That's not that's not a fault of the script. That's done on purpose. But there's so many things in this that should have been answered, and that's when you start punching holes in a weak script. And this is, I don't call it really a vampire movie, because the vampires do more singing than vamping. They're really barely in it. It just didn't feel like a vampire movie. It could have been demons. It could have been Satan worshippers. It could have been just a cult. It could have been anything. Let me know. Let me know the answers to these questions. Maybe if I get some amazing answers, then maybe I could start changing my mind on this and bump it up to a 6 or 7. But I just don't see that happening. But until the next one, I'll catch you later.